Good morning everyone from the beautiful Gurung village of Bhujung here at Lamjung. As you can see behind me is one of the oldest Gurung village here in Nepal, and right behind me there's some mountain, and somewhere right up there is the Lamjung Himal. We're waiting for the dawn, trying to catch some light, and we'll capture the peak. But for now we'll capture this landscape of the village, and I'll quickly walk you through an interesting feature found in the Nikon Z8 body. So the settings are quite basic. ISO 500 at aperture 5.6 with shutter speed of 160, but it's too dark for the scenario. So one of the interesting features found in the Z8 body is head to the menu, the range icon and number D. Under the detail menu you will find the Starlight view. Enable it on and you will quickly see the exposure bumping up. So it doesn't necessarily increase the shutter speed and exposure of the picture. As you can see, the focus is noticeably slower, but it helps you to adjust your focus, and with the correct exposure you can get the picture. So we're trying to capture this entire scene. The light is just coming behind the mountain of this village, and this is the quick setup. We don't have the tripod for now, so we can improvise with what we have. At ISO 64 and aperture maybe f8, and we're gonna dial the exposure down for the long exposure, maybe somewhere at 30 seconds. Once we hit the focus correct, we're gonna start our exposure. So this is the final image after 30-second exposure. We're gonna check out the sharpness. Say yup. It is still right before the dawn here in the morning, so we don't have sufficient light to work with. So one of the handy feature for such situation is we have illuminated buttons here in Nikon Z8 body. So that's the handy feature here if you're walking in the dark environment. We waited another hour or so for the sunrise, but nature had some other plans. But here are some of the pictures clicked during previous evening when the light was great and golden. You really aren't in a rush for anything. In this village, time slows down. You really aren't in a rush for anything other than catching the morning bus of 8:30 am. Here is the Lamjung Himal, captured from the courtyard of the homestay we stayed for a night. We hiked down the hill at Lower Settlement for a quick morning walk and saw a villager preparing his chores for the day. It's kind of the moment where, as a photographer, you take your time and draw those special moments otherwise forgotten in a busy world back here. When we returned back to the homestay, a thick layer of clouds began hovering up the settlement from the river down the valley. We felt like we were above the clouds. It was nature showing airy can be equally beautiful as well. And eventually, it started to cover the entire village into one doomed world. As you can see guys, the entire village is smoked with the cloud. You can barely see like few meters far away from here. The entire village is covered with the clouds. It wasn't the perfect sunrise morning we anticipated for, but it was a productive start for the day. After the breakfast, we walked up the alleys of the village, wandering the frozen time and living here. Our next destination was GhaleGaun, the first smart village of Nepal, and we
were greeted by the same monsoon clouds hovering around. We explored the outskirts of the village, where we found a herd of buffaloes chilling in a pond like they were asking to be photographed while they had their fun. And speaking of fun, it was rediscovering the childhood joys of playing with the school of tadpoles, a sight lost from Kathmandu in a collective memory. We hiked 900 meters up the hill of GhanPokhara at a viewpoint to test out capability of ISO 64, available in Nikon Z8, a feature often loved by landscape photographers for the better dynamic range and cleaner file overall.
So one of the advantages of having a Nikon Z8 body is you get the advantage of ISO 64. With the scene like this, that is a beautiful landscape area where the entire sky is covered with the blanket of clouds. Using ISO 64, you can preserve the details of the cloud and you can recover the details from the shadow area right down valley. So this is the photo with the ISO 64 setting. And this is the same photo with ISO of 100. I think there are probably 7 Nikon cameras that can do ISO 64 natively. 3 of them are DSLR and 4 of them are mirrorless. Normally cameras would do ISO 100. So with ISO 64 you get both the advantage of preserved highlights and shadows, which is the scenario we're clicking right now.
From the GhanPokhara viewpoint, we headed down towards the less explored wetland named Talayango Pond. The place so serene and calm. You could spot exotic birds if you are lucky enough, and surely we were as well, for a quick sight of Asian paradise flycatcher, but we couldn't get the shot on camera. After the meal, it was still cloudy in the first half of the afternoon, and the other half we just immersed ourselves in the serenity of the village. But as the quiet afternoon rolled to the evening with birds chirping, the sky began to clear and we felt optimistic. But it was still not enough to get the clear view of the mountain range. Our hopes were getting low as the sun was setting behind the western mountains until we saw something we couldn't just believe it would happen on that evening.
So we were exploring the village area somewhere right about that area when we saw something happening like this. Just look at that magic happening. And sorry, quite out of breath. And that is why we are here. Mount Manaslu, the 8th tallest mountain in the world. The view just poked out after a whole day of cloudy day, and just look at that. A ray of light is hitting from the mountain there.
The ray of light felt like a glimmer of hope. Just when we were about to call it the day, we had something on our luck. As the clouds began to clear the path, we could see the southern face of the Manaslu range glowing in the golden hour.
It is absolutely unreal what just happened in the last 20 minutes here. As you can see, the sun just poked out right up from behind the mountains. I know the phone can't see, but there's a small site of Mount Manaslu as well. But for now, we're gonna photograph this Manaslu range with the telephoto lens, and we're gonna see how it turned out to be.
This entire trip had been inspired by the Manaslu range, so when we switched lens to 200mm and saw the range in the proximity, it felt like God wanted us to see what a piece of heaven actually looked like, even if it was just mere 15 to 20 minutes of it. It was nature's display of highest level, definitely the highlight moment from the trip. 8 highest peak shot on Z8. Next morning, we believed luck would favor us for one last time, but unfortunately, the same nature can be decisive and unpredictable as well. Maybe that is why those 20 minutes of last evening felt truly surreal. The light hitting the Mursanji River down the valley was the best view of the morning. The village started to smother in the cloudy ambience once again before we headed down 1300-meter vertical drop towards Besisahar. We explored the little town and tried some panning photo, and maybe it was time we call it end of our trip.
So yeah, with that, we had a great time testing the Nikon Z8 at the mountains of Lamjung. So I think with this camera you get that authority and responsibility to create something more than a snap. You try to capture something that speaks for itself. Maybe that picture has a story in itself, and that is the beauty of Nikon Z8.